For the beat.
What's up, YouTube? Welcome to KO Bets. My name is Bill. This is the UFC 276 pick and prediction show, coming at you live from the Chicago suburbs. Let me give you a quick update on the NFT giveaway. We are at 32 subscribers. At 100 subscribers, I'm giving away a UFC Strike moment. I might do one at 50 as well. We're growing at an astronomical pace, but you know, it could be better. I appreciate you supporting the channel as you tune in. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel. Help me grow this thing. I love doing this. This is video number 77. So I mean, regardless if people are tuning in or not, I enjoy doing this. So share it with someone who might find this sort of content interesting. So before we get into UFC 276, we got an itinerary to go over here. What are we going to do tonight? We're going to do our picks and predictions for UFC 276. Oh, I want to talk about NBA free agency. That sounds like a lot of fun. Let me write this down somewhere. Trending topics, as always. I've got a couple of stories sent in from a viewer that I'd love to share with you. Just interesting stories. And I think that'll probably wrap up our show here. On Monday, I did a golf outing. It was a lot of fun. I won actually a couple of putters. That's the mallet one. I'm thinking about using it tomorrow. I might do... I don't know. I'll probably just give away the other one. The person who invited me out there. It was a very nice gesture to invite me out there, so I'll probably just give that one away back to him. But he had to bounce before the raffle drawing shared the results. Yeah, let's just get into UFC predictions, right? Enough chatting. Today I am still drinking Lagunadas IPA. Again, if you buy something from Costco, you get a shit ton of it. So this is the result, just like every single day. Well, sorry, I don't drink every day. Like every Friday, though, when I do have a drink on the stream, this is what I'm drinking. I think I might get into like just buying like smaller packs of craft beer. It's like the 4-packs, the 6-packs. That might be more my speed, just because you have the same kind of beer like this over and over again. It's just tough to stick with. But it is a little bit better than the stuff I was having at Swedish Days last week, that little fair. No doubt about it. Alright, so we've got, I believe, 12 fights to review here. Preview. Yeah, 12 fights. UFC 276 is taking place at the T-Mobile Arena tomorrow evening. The desk analyst is Dean Thomas, and we also got Anthony Smith, light heavyweight contender. We've got Megan O'Leary doing the pre and post-fight interviews. Megan is solid. Cage side commentators, we've got John Anik, Joe Rogan, and Daniel Cormier, the Dream Team. Joe Rogan's back after the last pay-per-view was over in Singapore. He's not with that traveling agenda. So he's back. This is in Las Vegas. It's kind of weird, like International Fight Week, and I understand like a lot of the fighters are competing from... It's a global sport, so the talent's drawn from everywhere, typically. So it's just kind of weird it's taking place in Vegas, but, I mean, I don't know, it's just kind of odd. I think they're going back to London this month, which should be a lot of fun, so. Alright, let's get into it. Jessica Rose Clark taking on Julia. Is it Julia? I think it's Julia. The J is silent, but it could be Julia Stoliarenko. Jessica Rose Clark is the favorite at minus 145. Julia is the underdog at plus 125. Julia hasn't done well in the UFC thus far. She's 0-3. She is a submission artist, so she's looking for that submission. Out of her 9 wins professionally, 8 have come via submission. So she's looking for that armbar, the armbar, which happens to be the method of how Jessica Rose Clark lost her last fight, was the armbar. But Jessica Rose Clark seems like a more well-rounded fighter, in my opinion, and warrants the favorite odds. She's just got to come in there with a game plan to maybe strike with Julia and not turn it into a grappling match, because it just takes one mistake to kind of get from top mount, get slipped into that armbar, and we saw against Stephanie Egger, who's probably better than Julia. It was a mistake for Jessica Rose Clark to wrestle with her, so I'm rolling with Jessica Rose Clark on this for sure. I kind of like the decision method of victory as a result. If we are looking at Jessica Rose Clark's wins, 6 out of her 11 wins have come via decision. She's 6-6 in decisions, but Julia is only 1-3 in decisions. I kind of think Julia's only method to victory here is that submission. She's 29 years old of age. Jessica Rose Clark, 34. Little more experience. Yeah, rolling with Jessica Rose Clark. I like the decision. It's plus 120. I'm sure the odds makers like this one to go the distance. Yes, they do. I mean, if you just like absolutely hate Jessica Rose Clark and you're for some reason fading her in this matchup, like the submission at plus 400, that doesn't sound bad, right? Especially because we saw her lose to Egger in that manner. But I'm rolling with Jessica Rose Clark and the decision. Probably would sprinkle a little bit on that. First fight of the night. I wasn't good there for a while, but kind of bounced back, getting my confidence back, catching my stride. So I think this is, by the way, I think this is going to be a terrific card as far as the, our return on investment here. I think this is going to be nice. So, for sure rolling with Jessica Rose Clark. Probably the decision, but, minus 145 odds. I don't think that's bad. Julia hasn't been good. Next fight we've got is Jessica I taking on Macy Barber. Jessica I, she's going to be a heavy underdog in this one at plus 240 odds. Macy Barber is the favorite at minus 275. If we're looking at Macy Barber, she's on a 2-fight win streak. The fights that she lost, just kind of got outclassed by some better, veterans, but better fighters for sure. Roxanne Modafferi no longer in the UFC. But then kind of got back on her winning ways. She is a wrestler. Jessica I, she's pretty big, and she's going to come in here and try and wrestle as well. I think the matchup, why we're seeing such, heavy odds towards, Macy Barber's the heavy favorite. I think why we're seeing that is because Macy Barber is a good grappler, and that's kind of Jessica I's only path to victory, in my opinion. If she's not able to out-grapple Macy Barber, she's going to have a difficult time. She is older than Macy Barber. Macy Barber's only 24, and Jessica I is 35. So I just kind of favor the motor, and I think stylistically, Macy Barber's in an advantageous matchup here. So I'm rolling with Macy Barber. She is the heavy favorite, like I said, at minus 285. So we got to dive into the numbers a little bit here. If I had to guess the method of victory, Jessica I, only 2 losses have not gone to the distance. Macy Barber, she does have some KO victories. Like coming into the UFC, her first 3 fights in the promotion, all KOs and all early KOs. So, I don't think she's going to submit Jessica I. I think the Macy Barber decision is likely. Jessica I does have good experience. If we're looking at her resume, I just want to see who's on here. Jennifer Maya, Joanna Wood, Salvio, Valentina Shevchenko somehow. So, I mean, and she goes to decision. I mean, she lost. KO lost to Valentina, but like Juliana Pena decision, Misha Tate decision. That was back in 2015, 2014, no, 2015. So, I mean, she's very durable. I think she's gonna probably last in there for the 3 rounds with Macy Barber. So I think that decision is probably likely. If we're looking at the fight lines, I mean, as far as same game parlay, I just kind of think this matchup is all in favor of Macy Barber. So I just want to see if we can build out like just some sort of same game parlay with this. Fight props. Usually don't they have like more strikes thrown? Am I crazy? Or do they just not have it for this particular fight? And also, why wouldn't you roll with this decision as opposed to this decision? I mean, you could improve it a little bit if you like the decision, but not much. As you can see, it wiped out our over bet, right? Because it's obviously gonna go over if we like the decision. So, yeah, I would probably consider putting Macy Barber on some parlays. I just think she's in a really good matchup this fight. The next fight we've got is Uriah Hall taking on Andre Muniz. Uriah Hall is tremendously talented, terrific kickboxer. It's just like sometimes you're hoping for a little bit more from him, like a little bit more from an offensive perspective in fights. He just, for whatever reason, he just kind of gets caught like in this situation where, like against Sean Strickland, and he was on a solid win streak before the Sean Strickland fight, but like where he just gets a little bit, he just gets picked on a little bit. Like if Andre Muniz is putting him on his heels, like, and it's a terrible strategy against Andre, right? So if he's backing up, if he's timid, like Andre's just gonna go for the takedown and try to grapple with them, probably get a submission, right? That's what Andre Muniz does. If we're looking at his 22 wins, 15 have come via submission. Armbar, 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 rear naked, armbar, rear naked, guillotine, triangle, triangle. So, I mean, he's a great jiu-jitsu artist. Uriah Hall has never been submitted. If we're looking at some of the biggest submission threats, like it kind of like Gegard Mousasi knocked him out. Like I would consider, maybe I'm crazy, yeah, 12 submission wins, 28 KO wins though, 49-8. Dude's ridiculous. I like him. Yeah, but then you see him against like Calvin Gastelum in his debut. That wasn't a good fight, but that was his debut. Got knocked out by Paulo Costa. I mean, I guess I don't know. The point is, sometimes you're left looking for a little bit more with Uriah Hall. I will say in this, if it's not a grappling match, like Uriah Hall carries a tremendous amount of value in my opinion, and I do think he can win like a point striking fight if this is just kept on the feet. I've been kind of back and forth with my money line decision. I do think if this fight does go to the mat, like Uriah Hall, he's done. But I think for the value at plus 265, I gotta take Uriah Hall. He's faced better competition. He is going to be the better stand-up artist, in my opinion, in this fight. If we're looking at the fight props, they don't think this fight goes the distance. The Uriah Hall KO at plus 400, okay, but that decision at plus 100 or 1,000, that's huge value. And then if we're looking at Munoz, they obviously like the submission, but again, and Uriah Hall kind of up until this point has avoided a lot of, I mean, yeah, Jotko, no, not a striker. Evan Lewis, I don't know if he's in the UFC anymore. Carlos Jr., he's not in the UFC, but he had 15 wins out of his 11. Those were submissions, so he's a submission artist. Split decision win against him. So, yeah, I guess I'm rolling with Uriah Hall. How's the takedown defense? Anyway. Not the best. Again, it just seems like he's got all the kind of physical tools and the ability to, like, I think I might have picked him against Sean Strickland. I honestly can't remember who I picked in that fight. I think I picked Uriah Hall, and he just got bullied. So in my opinion, it kind of depends on what version of Uriah Hall we see. Well, actually, he had 3 losses in a row. Beat Joko, got knocked out by Costa, and then kind of went on a winning streak. I don't know. This is a tough fight. I would definitely be careful if you're very confident on Andre. Probably worth betting a little bit less and just going with the submission method of victory. That's just my opinion. Save your dollars in this one. I like Uriah Hall. I think the idea of taking him at plus 265, doing the KO at plus 400. I mean, the decision at plus 1,000 is super appealing too. KO decision plus 275. Only slightly. I mean, it makes sense, right? He's not going to submit Andre Muniz. Big step up in competition for Andre. He is, I mean, he hasn't lost for a while. No, he hasn't lost for a while, that's for sure. In the UFC, had the decision victory versus Antonio Arroyo, and 3 straight first round submissions. So maybe that first round submission is in play. Fight parlays. Andre Muniz 180. Maybe that's an option. Next fight, we've got Brad Tavares taking on Dricus du Plessis. One of my favorite names to say ever. Just kind of rolls off the tongue. Dricus du Plessis. Lots of S's. Brad Tavares, a slight underdog heading into this. Good kickboxer. I think he has a loss to like Israel Adesanya and someone else, Edmund Shabazian. And then, just terrific resume, right? His losses are to incredible fighters. Yoel Romero, Rob Whittaker, Israel Adesanya. And there's some other ones sprinkled. I don't mean to say he's only beat terrific competition or competed against terrific competition. He does have some. I think just the Dricus du Plessis. I just think he's looked very impressive in his first couple of fights. 100% finishing rate, right? Yeah, 7 KO wins, 9 submission wins. I mean, Brad Tavares, he might have a stand-up advantage, but I don't think he will. I think it'll be very competitive on the feet. But I like Dricus du Plessis in this. He is the underdog at minus 150. But I like him in this. Sorry, why did I call him the underdog? The favorite at minus 150. I like Dricus du Plessis. If I had to guess a method of victory, we've got kind of Brad Tavares 3 knockout losses. Went to a decision though against Israel Adesanya. I mean, I think Dricus is capable of knocking him out. Yeah, I feel kind of comfortable just betting on Dricus on the money line and being cool with like whatever the method of victory is. I like him because he's a little bit. I don't know. I just think his career trajectory is a little bit different. He seems like he's 28. Brad Tavares is 34. 2 fights into his UFC career, and he's just looked really sharp. On a 4-fight win streak professionally, he just looks really, really good. So I'm rolling with him as the better prospect. As far as the winning method, they like the KO. I don't know about that. I think Brad Tavares is pretty tough. He could give him a good run in this fight. Yeah, I wouldn't count out. He does have 2 wins via KO, just because du Plessis does, but I wouldn't count out the. Maybe I like the inside the distance. Maybe I like the inside the distance as the pick. Minus 135. Maybe I like that a little bit. I'm going to write that down. And then, if I had to guess a method of victory, yeah, I would be inclined to say plus 165 for the KO, because Brad Tavares does have 3 KO losses, 0 submission losses, but probably just going with Dricus on the money line. Next fight, we've got Jim Miller taking on Donald Cerrone at 170. I mean, you got to admire Donald Cerrone for, just making a fight happen, right? He's been trying to fight against I don't know. I forget his name. He had some sort of issue with his weight cut last time. Wasn't, was dealing with some stuff and had to go to the hospital. But Donald Cerrone couldn't make the fight against his last opponent happen. Not his fault at all. Legend, a lot of respect. Putting a lot of respect out there for Donald Cerrone. But, what I've seen from Jim Miller lately, I just absolutely love. We've got a 38-year-old in Jim Miller taking on a 39-year-old in Donald Cerrone. So, I mean, they're both just a couple of OGs in the sport. If we're looking at Jim Miller, he's been in the UFC since UFC 89 he competed in 2008. Absolutely ridiculous. And then Donald Cerrone, he's also been around for a long time. He was acquired in the WEC acquisition. 2011, he started competing in the UFC. So, I mean, these dudes are legends. I think we've just seen, and it's recency bias, we've just seen, Donald Cerrone, he's been super fragile against a lot of fighters, and he's been fighting good fighters, right? And he went to a decision against Anthony Pettis, went to a decision against Nico Price. There was a penalty in that kind of fucked everything up, but otherwise, just been getting knocked out an awful lot. And we've seen Jim Miller knock out his last 2 opponents. I would just be careful with this one. I kind of like the inside the distance prediction for this fight. If we're looking at the odds makers, yeah, they like it as well. I think when, like, Jim Miller's gas tank's not that great, but I'm gonna roll with Jim Miller on the money line in this one. I think I've just seen more from him in his last 2 fights, and it's recency bias, I know. And Cerrone's been facing some really tough competition, no question about it, at his age. But I mean, just what we've seen out of Jim Miller lately, it's hard for me to not think he's gonna, I think he's gonna knock out Donald. And if he's not able to, I think he's gonna gas himself out and he's gonna get knocked out or submitted. So I like the inside the distance bet. I like the Jim Miller KO. Yeah, I think this is gonna be a great fight. We've got another fight a little bit later on the card on the main card with a couple of OGs as well, and Robbie Lawler and Brian Barberena. Looking forward to both of these fights. Next fight, we've got Ian Gary taking on Gabriel Green. This card is ridiculous. It is. Like, every single fight is fire. It's amazing. Ian Gary, awesome prospect, slick boxer, 9-0 professionally. We'll see how good he is. He's taking on Gabriel Green, who does have, 6 submission wins on his resume. It'll be interesting. I think Gabriel Green, if he's not able to get this to the mat, he's getting knocked out. And I don't think he's going to get it to the mat. I think Ian Gary's his technicality is really going to shine through. I think he's going to be sidestepping a lot and just counter-striking, and he's going to look very, very good in this fight. I don't know if Gabriel Green's going to get this one to the mat. If he's not able to, no question in my mind, Ian Gary's going to knock him out. If we're looking at the odds, Ian Gary is the favorite at -190. Gabriel Green, underdog at +160. I'm rolling with Ian Gary on the money line. I'm rolling with him probably with the knockout in this fight. If we're looking at Gabriel Green, he does, out of his 3 losses, 2 have come via knockout. One was Daniel Rodriguez. Jalen Turner back in Bellator, who we'll preview in our next fight here. He knocked him out. So I just think Ian Gary's, he's slick on the feet. And I think it's a tough matchup for Gabriel Green. So I like Ian Gary a lot. This is probably, Ian Gary, Dricus Duplessis, Macy Barber, Jessica Rose Clark. Those are fighters I really like on this card. I'm willing to risk it for the biscuit on Uriah Hall. Jim Miller, Donald, who knows with that one, but I like Jim Miller. I'm pretty confident in my picks this week. Brad Riddell taking on Jalen Turner. Brad Riddell, 4-1 in the UFC. Pretty decent fighter. I think he's Australian. From New Zealand. Okay. Yeah, he was on its absolute tear in the UFC. uh, until his last loss against Rafael Fiziev. He's coming off a loss. Jalen Turner, I mean, the thing that sticks out with him is just the frame, right? The frame that he's coming into these fights with. 6'3", 77 inches, just huge reach advantage. You know, I like Brad Riddell. I think he's a very good striker, good Muay Thai artist. He's 5-0 in decisions. But Jalen Turner is just, he's a little bit special as far as like his measurables. And in his last 4 fights, he's just been dusting people. Knocked out Kulabau, submitted 2 fighters. Uros Medic, like that was super impressive, submitting him in round 1. Then knocks out Jamie Malarkey, who is, I mean, I think Jamie Malarkey might have a knockout loss to Alex Pereira in kickboxing. Like, I don't know if that was professional or amateur, but Malarkey's not a bad striker by any means. And with 10 knockout victories, and I mean, Jalen Turner knocked his ass out. So I like Jalen Turner in this. I like the finish a lot. I'm sure the odds makers do as well. We're looking at the odds makers. Fight props. No, -250. Yeah, they like the finish as well. I'd have to agree with that. I think there's some value on the submission here. I don't think Brad Tavares has any submission losses. Oh, he has one. That was an armbar to Abel Brights back in the day. Yeah, I just feel like there's a little bit of value on like a club and sub type result. Maybe not. Maybe it's the Jalen Turner KO all the way. Maybe it's a decision. And if it goes to a decision, just look at the output of the 2 fighters. I mean, Brad Riddell somehow is 5-0 in decisions. Really, really solid Muay Thai striker. But I think the reach advantage is going to pay off for Jalen Turner. I think his submission threat is going to deter Brad from having a lot of success anywhere in this fight. The combination of the length and the ability to grapple from Jalen Turner. So I like Jalen Turner a lot at -165. It is a close fight. Not sure why I put emphasis on a lot there, because I wouldn't probably parlay him, but I like Jalen Turner. Would for sure consider putting him. He's going to be in my round robin. I'm doing a round robin tomorrow because I know it's going to hit. All these money line predictions, they're all hitting. Pedro Munoz taking on Sean O'Malley. Woo! The Sugar Show. Big fan of the Sugar Show. Pedro Munoz, he's fought the best of the best, right? If we're looking at his recent fights, I think he's like 1-4 in his last 5. But to give him credit, he knocked out Cody Garbrandt, and then which isn't amazing, but it's good win. And it was, given the context at the time, like that was back in 2019. That was a good win. But then since then, like he beat Jimmy Rivera, and Jimmy Rivera, he hasn't looked good lately. And Cody Stamen, but he's been fighting against some stiff competition as well. 35 years old. I don't think he's gonna hold up against Sean O'Malley. The Sugar Show, I'm all in on this dude. I think he's an amazing striker. Pedro Munoz, his path to victory, I think, is grappling, right? He is a good jiu-jitsu artist. But Sean, again, he does have a lot of measurables that sway in his favor, a lot of length. Yeah, I think Sean O'Malley at minus 280. I had him at minus 315 written down. I think he warrants a lot of he warrants the favorite odds for sure. And then if we're looking at like how we've seen Sean lose, it was the leg kicks, right, from Tito Vera, and that's kind of the approach Munoz had against Cody Garbrandt, using those leg kicks. So maybe he's able to hurt Sean O'Malley, but I don't really think so. I think Sean's gonna probably dust him. Pedro Munoz has never been knocked out in his UFC career. He's 6-7 in decisions. Sean O'Malley 3-0 in decisions. Like, maybe it's that decision. I kind of like Sean O'Malley and over, whatever that looks like. Yeah, over 1.5 minus 135, 120. But I wouldn't put it past Sean to get an early stoppage if we're looking at history. I mean, the dude is a KO machine, right? Throwing some funky shit at his opponents, and he's hurting them. But you just gotta respect Pedro Munoz and his durability. So I think it'll probably go over, but probably just gonna parlay the money line at minus 280 with something else. Robbie Lawler taking on Brian Barberena. Host these two. I don't know. I've been kind of going back and forth on this one, but Robbie Lawler, slight favorite at minus 115. Brian Barberena, underdog at minus 105. Basically a pick'em. I think, Robbie Lawler, age 40. Who knows how long he's going to do this. Brian Barberena, age 33. We've seen a little bit more from Brian Barberena lately. Both of these dudes are warriors. But I just don't think we're ever going to see Brian Barberena reach the level that Robbie Lawler achieved in the sport. And if we're looking at Robbie Lawler, rough go of things after losing to Tyron Woodley. Bounced back, beat Cerrone, then lost to Rafael Dos Anjos, Ben Askren, Colby Covington, Neil Magny. Then he beat Nick Diaz. So I don't know if we can make much of his recent record besides the fact he's been in there against some really, really tough competition, right? I don't think Brian Barberena exactly is the same pedigree of opponent as what we listed off there. So I like Robbie Lawler. I like the 40-year-old. Give me the old man in this one. I think he's a little more violent. I think he's a warrior. He's displayed a good gas tank in the past, and for that reason, I'm going with. And it's back to a pick'em, minus 110, minus 110. Give me Robbie Lawler. I do think it goes to a decision, so I do think like whoever you're taking, there's value on the decision. I think if anyone's knocking anyone out, what do I think? I'm tempted to say if anyone's knocking anyone out, it's going to be Robbie Lawler knocking out Brian Barberena. Like, he's just been in there against some solid-ass fighters lately and hasn't lost. And, like, when we're listing off these fighters, who would you take in a fight Nick Diaz against Brian Barberena? I'd probably take Diaz. Magny against Barberena, Magny. Covington, Covington. Askren. That one's iffy. But Robbie Lawler rocked Askren in that fight. That was actually kind of a funny fight. Dos Anjos, obviously. Cerrone against Barberena. That would be interesting. Tyrone Woodley against Barberena. I don't know about Woodley. Talking myself out of it. Let's move on. I'm rolling with Robbie Lawler on the money line. Probably a decision. Sean Strickland taking on Alex Pereira. I was watching some Alex Pereira highlights. The dude is insane, right? His punching power, that lead left hook, just absolutely insane. And he is a big dude. Sean Strickland pointed it out this week in some of his interviews. He's a big dude. I do think Sean Strickland is a difficult opponent for Alex Pereira. I think he's 3 fights into his UFC career. Yeah, he fights Andres Michailidis, beats him with a flying knee and some punches. Bruno Silva goes to a decision against him. Now he's fighting against Sean Strickland. They are trying to force this Israel Adesanya, Alex Pereira matchup. I just think, like, how can you bet against Sean Strickland? He's an exciting prospect, Alex Pereira. It reminds me of a little bit of like Ngannou against Stipe 1. Like, a dude's in his 3rd UFC fight, and he's fighting against a guy and I know he's been a kickboxer, right? But he's fighting against a guy who's been in the UFC since 2014. Used to fight at 170, now he's at 185. I think Sean Strickland has good boxing. I think he's got the grappling ability. If we're looking at Sean Strickland's record here, he has been more of a puncher lately, but he's got 4 submission wins. I just think he's really well-rounded, and he's a tough opponent for Alex Pereira. If he does stand and strike with Alex Pereira, though, yeah, I mean, it could be problems. Sean did get knocked out in his career once. That was against Elizu Zaleski dos Santos. It was a spinning wheel kick. Spinning wheel kick and punches, it says in round 1. So I'm going to be nervous on this pick. I'm not going to lie. I'm confident in Sean Strickland. I'm going to be nervous, though, on this one. Pereira, watching some of his highlights, the way he throws that lead left hook, it's nasty. It is absolutely nasty. And Sean Strickland is the favorite now at -135. But this has been kind of swaying back and forth. I think the decision is likely for Sean if we're looking at fight props. Yeah, I think just because of the fact it's a pick 'em and they're both strikers, you gotta potentially the knockout result, the finish by both of them, and especially by Pereira. But I'm rolling with Sean Strickland, rolling with the veteran, the guy who's been in the sport longer, been doing this longer, well-rounded. For me, there's value on this submission at +900. If Sean just goes in there and makes it an easy fight, just takes him down and submits him, that'd be fucking outstanding. That would be that would for sure warrant a fight against Israel Adesanya. Don't get into a war with Pereira. You're gonna lose. Take him down, submit him, +900. That's a crazy bet, but look, that's what I'm rolling with. Sean Strickland submission. I like it. Alexander Volkanovski taking on Blessed Max Holloway. Man, Volkanovski is outstanding, but Max is one of my favorites. I think you could say Max arguably won the second fight. I think the first fight, yeah, the leg kicks that Volkanovski was using, they fucked up Max, right? They hampered him from being able to strike, but it's almost like Volkanovski just made Max not look as good as he normally does, in my opinion, in that fight. And he didn't. I haven't been thoroughly impressed with either victories from Volkanovski over Max Holloway. You know, nothing definitive like we saw Usman versus Masvidal 2. Yeah, I could see. I'm rolling with Max. I'm rolling with Blessed in this one. Max is a terrific striker. Volkanovski does have the grappling, obviously, in his back pocket, and he is just like a terrific competitor. The more I'm thinking about it, like, I love going with the competitor over like the guy who I perceive to be more talented. And I do perceive Max Holloway to be a more talented fighter. I just think Volkanovski is both talented and like a crazy competitor. But like, if he's not, can we look up that fight actually? The second fight against Max? I want to say he had some takedowns. Volkanovski did. And he turned it on in the end of the matchup, right? It was, okay, so he didn't have, oh no, he had 3 takedowns. Yeah, I mean, numbers-wise, it looks like he for sure won. But if I recall correctly, Max took the first 2 rounds, and then Alex must have closed it out. Man, am I talking myself out of a Max pick? I think I am. First fight. Yeah, I don't know why people think the second fight was closer. I think the first fight was awfully close. I mean, man. I think I'm going to change my pick and go with Alexander Volkanovski. Max is one of my favorites, but I owe it to this audience to be like analytical and just look at this. Volkanovski won the first 2 fights. He's got the takedown in his back pocket. Max has obviously looked terrific against Qatar. Looked terrific against Rodriguez. I think he's going to look terrific at moments in this fight against Volkanovski. And for that reason, I think there is, like, I think we're talking about, like, as a likelihood of victory. I think, like, Volkanovski wins at 52% of the time, and Max is at, like, 49, 48. And I just, for that reason, I think there's value on Max. And I do think the fight goes the distance like the odds makers predict. I do think the decision method of victory is probably accurate. So if we're betting $1 here, we get paid 2. We bet 0.5 here. We're getting $1.87 back. 0.7. So you could do like a 2-to-1 kind of bet. Just to cover yourself on the decision if you're rolling with Volkanovski. If you're rolling with Max, Who cares? Fuck it. I'm going back to Max. Max is winning this. I'm rolling with Max. It's going to be a close fight. It's going to be like some of the crazy decisions we've seen lately. As long as it's close, the UFC's going to love this shit. They're going to push out number 4. Volkanovski against Max, number 4. Let's fucking go, Max. Israel Adesanya taking on Jared Cannonier. Izzy's a heavy favorite, and rightfully so. Only loss in the UFC thus far is to Jan Blachowicz. I like Cannonier a lot, but I think some of those fighters that we thought would possess a lot of strength ability against Israel Adesanya, they haven't been particularly great outside of Jan Blachowicz. Jared Cannonier, I mean, if he just like grapples the whole time, that's his path to victory, in my opinion. I don't see how he could win if he's not grappling or knock. Maybe I should say he is a knockout artist. If he's not knocking out Izzy, like, I don't know how he wins this fight. I'm rolling with Israel Adesanya. Excuse me. Minus 475. Yeah, heavy favorite. Minus 120, it doesn't go the distance. Yeah, Jared Cannonier, 2 knockout losses, 3 decision losses. For sure more of a knockout artist in his own right. Adesanya, 7-1 in decisions. Obviously went to the decision against Jan Blachowicz. Otherwise 7-0 at this weight class. I think the knockout decision is most likely for Adesanya. Minus 400, you can improve your odds a little bit there. But I'm rolling with Adesanya. The odds are crazy though. Like, Cannonier, maybe it's worth just, hedging a bet a little bit with the Cannonier KO, but I think Israel Adesanya has this. I think if I had to guess, I think it'll probably be a KO. The reason I think that is I just think, like, could we see a Yoel Romero Israel Adesanya type fight where they're just like overly respecting each other's striking ability? Sure. Yeah, we could see that. And if that's the case, like, it's probably going to be a decision, but I do think Israel Adesanya is a more skilled striker. I think he's capable of knocking out Cannonier. Yeah. Reach advantage, height advantage. We'll see what happens, but I like Izzy in this fight a lot. For sure. What's going on in the chat? We don't have anything yet. We're running on about an hour. So I wanted to talk about NBA news. First of all, Kevin Durant, if you're tuned into KO Bets on Friday night at 8:30 p.m. Central Time, like, you should come to Chicago. And Arturus, you're watching this? Bulls GM? Get rid of draft picks. If it's Vucevic, you gotta send out. And Patrick Williams. And Kobe White. And picks. so be it. I mean, go out and get Kevin Durant. Bring him to Chicago. Pair him up with Zoe, Zach, DeMar, KD, Drummond. Who cares at that point? Who else we have? But yeah, come to Chicago. Give him 3 first-round draft picks: Vooch, Patrick Williams, and Kobe White. We'll be good. We'll be good. The Gobert trade today was crazy. I feel like if I was talking about this with my buddy, I feel like if I was an NBA GM and the GM of the Timberwolves, like, you just offered essentially your first round pick this year, so 5 first rounders plus 3 other players for Rudy Gobert, who's an elite defender, no question, but you're pairing him with a true center in Karl Anthony Towns. Like, why didn't I just don't understand why you wouldn't offer that for Donovan Mitchell. Pair up Donovan Mitchell with D'Angelo, Ant, and Karl Anthony Towns and McDaniels. Like, just seems to make a little more sense, in my opinion, to bolster up the Wolves' wing depth. But I don't know. It's an interesting trend. You're seeing Orlando; they're very big, very long. Milwaukee obviously kind of started the trend. The Cavaliers, very long teams, and I just think the combination of Karl Anthony Towns, Gobert, that's kind of gonna get run off the floor. That's just my opinion. Against small lineups, I think small lineups are gonna kind of cook that. As far as Kyrie, I'd take Kyrie on the Bulls as well. Like, I think Kyrie's a terrific player. I think Kevin Durant is a terrific player. I think they hold a lot of leverage in the sense, like, no one wants to trade for a disgruntled superstar who's not interested in playing for their organization. So if you're not, like, Kyrie is interesting because he's in a contract year, right? So there's incentive for him to perform, go out and perform, play a bunch of games, win. But, like, his value is not going to diminish all that much if he doesn't have a great season this year. That's just my opinion. I think he's going to, personally, I think he's going to have a monster year. I think he's an amazing talent, but yeah, I just don't understand what these teams, like, why they're just taking, like, this hard position of, with, like, superstar players that have generated a ton of money for their franchise. I don't understand why they're taking such a weird position against their players. It's like, I'm talking like the Sixers, what they did with Simmons. It was like they threw him under the bus, and it's like, okay, like, yeah, he played bad, and maybe you don't feel like he was accountable enough in Philly, but that was a good ass player. That was a good ass defensive player. That was a good offensive player, in my opinion. Maybe not a good shooter, but I thought he was going to be absolutely incredible with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving in Brooklyn. I also think he would be an intriguing trade target for the Golden State Warriors, who rely on, a lot of defenders kind of his size to make an impact on the game besides scoring the basketball. I think it would be an interesting, opportunity for the Warriors with their depth. Kuminga, Wiseman, Poole. Like, you had Ben Simmons and have him fill in that Draymond role. It's absolutely insane. But I think you'd rather have Wiggins on that team at this point, given the result of winning the finals. Anything else interesting happen? Like a lot of re-signings, a lot of bringing back players. Brunson to New York. That's obviously a big deal for the Knicks organization. I think it's kind of a reach by the Knicks and it's a failure by the Mavs. Can I have it both ways in that situation? Like, I think the Mavs, what are they doing to help Luka? I don't know. I don't know what's going on. They need to get a player to pair with him as soon as possible. You saw the Atlanta Hawks. They made the trade for DeJounte Murray to pair with Trae Young. They've got obviously John Collins. They've traded for Clint Capella since they had Trae Young. They're trying to build around Trae. I think the Mavs are trying to build around Luka, but they're doing it in a way that's just like way too risk averse for a top tier talent. You know, a top 5 NBA talent, in my opinion. He's super young. I just don't understand why you wouldn't aggressively pursue, like, even like they signed JaVale McGee and people thought that was a great signing. Like, why aren't they exploring Ayton? I think Ayton's worth exploration with Phoenix. Do a sign and trade with them. Try and unload some salary onto Phoenix for some veteran pieces. I mean, maybe the doors of communication aren't open after Phoenix fumbled the ball like they did in that series, but yeah, it's interesting. Oh, Celtics with Brogdon. That's big. I still don't think the Celtics are as good as a healthy Milwaukee team. The Heat are interesting. I think the Heat should have beaten the Celtics, but they didn't. Heat are for sure interesting. I don't know. Tatum was super impressive this postseason. I thought he was absolutely incredible outside of the NBA Finals and the reason why the Celtics made the finals, but like, no, I just think the East is super deep. Like, you could potentially put the Sixers in that conversation to be, we'll see how Harden looks next year. We'll see what other moves they make this offseason. They added PJ Tucker. I think the Sixers are an interesting team. They definitely have the ability to compete with the Celtics defensively. The question is, offensively, are they able to lock down some of those players on the perimeter and produce offensively from the perimeter? And that's kind of up to James Harden, right? You're hoping for a certain production from that type of player. So the Bulls, I gotta be honest, like, I'm obviously a huge Bulls fan. I think matchup-wise, we had a rough opponent in the Milwaukee Bucks. I think we could have played almost every other team in the conference a little bit better than we did against the Milwaukee Bucks. We looked really small, and we got Andre Drummond, brought back Derek Jones Jr., re-signed Zach LaVine, which was huge. And I think we were very good with Lonzo Ball. I think we need him back healthy. That's super important. I'm excited with Dalen Terry. Patrick Williams has to be healthy. I think the Bulls are going to be very good as well. Yeah, so that kind of rounds up my NBA talk. Let's get into the trending topics. Stranger Things. Fuck yeah! I'm watching that tonight with my girlfriend. We're watching that. That sounds fucking terrific. And then I'm golfing. I think I already held that up in front of the camera, the putter I won. But I won 2. The other one's in my bedroom, but this is the office. The other one's in the bedroom. Just for practice, you know, with a golf ball. The Essence Festival, featuring appearances from rapper Nicki Minaj and singer Janet Jackson, is underway in New Orleans. Okay. What is Boring Films? Sleeping in Hollow? Men Who Stare at Oats? The Bored Identity? Born on the 4th. I don't know. Happy 4th of July, everyone. Good day to just be grateful for the place we live, right? If you're tuning in from the US of A. Just to be thankful of where we live. I mean, I know we're at each other's throats in the media, but for the most part, I think that shit is, a lot of it's manufactured and fake, and I love my neighbors, and I think this is a really good place to grow up and live. I think it's a good reminder that freedom wasn't free. There were people who died for the lifestyle that we, you know, don't think about all the time, but that we have today. And I think it's just like an amazing, it's crazy to think about like all the other places you could be born and all the issues you would have to deal with in those countries, and like how fortunate I am to be living in the US. Is just like, we're not perfect, right? There's no question about it, but I'm not down with that fashion, one style of belief. Like we got to be accepting and appreciative of the rights we have as individuals here in this country. And there's difference of opinions, but that's what makes us wonderful. So I think this is a fucking great place to live. Vikings, Raiders, Derek Hall. Who cares? Who cares? Alright, what am I looking up? Oh yeah, a subscriber, terrific subscriber, probably my most, my biggest supporter, sent in some stories about, that she found interesting, so I would just like to share them with you. Largest fresh water fish caught in the world. I think this was in the Philippines. Cambodia. It was a giant stingray. Check this out. So the previous record holder was like a 600-pound catfish, and now it's a big old stingray. We need a picture of it, though. Let's just look up Cambodia stingray. This channel is not brought to you by any fucking news organization. We don't appreciate any of them. Here, why? Because they're not paying me money. They pay me money, we'll shout them out. But I don't even think the story was originally published on this platform. It's just like such a conglomerate and huge organization. They just like suck up every trending news line. So stupid. Cambodia villagers in the Mekong River have caught what researchers say is the world's biggest freshwater fish ever recorded. A stingray that weighed 661 pounds. Look at the size of this. You know what? If I was the Guinness World Book of Records and you told me like you caught the biggest freshwater fish ever, I'd say, okay, prove it. And they'd show me a stingray and I'd say, you fucking lose. That's not a fish, that's a stingray. Why? Because it doesn't look like a normal fish. So I do have a question, like are stingrays fish? We're clearly, for the sake of this competition of the world's largest freshwater fish, it's a fish. I just think it's kind of cheap, right? Catfish, that makes sense. But it, like, fish don't look like this. Maybe flounders, a little bit, right? Flounders look kind of like that. But that's not a normal fish. So, I think this record, I'm calling for the Guinness Book of World Records to put an asterisk by the stingray fish and also include the world's largest catfish, which was caught in Cambodia as well. 600 pounds. By the way, that's a crazy size for a catfish, right? That is absolutely insane as far as a catfish. Sorry, I'm looking up the other story here. Oh, man swings. This is absolutely crazy. So I think this guy's son is getting arrested. And you can see the screenshots here. He just starts swinging. He just starts swinging his excavator at 2 Vermont state troopers. Look at this. Look at these guys. I wonder if he wanted to, like, hurt the cops or protect his son. Because, like, I mean, and you don't really want to find out, right? This is like one of those things like, oh, he wouldn't hit me with this if I'm like, if his son's like right here, right? Like right in front of me, in between the excavator and me, like he's not gonna hit his son with the excavator and potentially risk hurting his son. So I think I would want to call the bluff, but honestly, I probably react like the guy standing up here, just like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Yeah, and I might just shoot him right here. Yeah, right there, I might have just shot him, you know? You never know how you would react, right? But I appreciate everyone tuning in tonight. I think we did amazing work. If you would like to, go ahead and follow me on Twitter. I'm going to go ahead and put my handle here in the comments. I'll post some pics tomorrow. Wait 1 second, that might have been wrong. Yep, it was wrong. My bad. There it is. All right. Happy 4th of July, everyone. If you haven't already, would appreciate you liking the video, subscribing to the channel. Go ahead, give me a follow here on YouTube. You'll get notified when I go live. NFT giveaway continues. Subscribe to the channel, and you'll qualify for all my giveaways. Have a great 4th of July weekend. Peace.